because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the
Lord. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood.
We cannot walk alone, and as we walk, we must make the pledge that we shall always march ahead. We cannot turn back. Let us not wallow in the valley of despair. I say to you today, my friends.
And so even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream.
I have a dream that one day our nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
I have a dream that one day little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted and every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be made plain and the crooked places shall be made straight.
With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood.
And this will be the day of when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing, land where my fathers die, land of pilgrims' pride, from every mountainside let freedom ring. And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true, and so let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire, let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from the curvaceous slopes of California.
And when this happens, and when we allow freedom to reign, it will reign through every village and every hamlet, every state and every city. We will be able to speed up that day with all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics. We will be able to join hands and sing the word.
Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
My dream for the future is that Santa Clarita continues to be one of the best cities in the country. Santa Clarita is a safe community that values families, parks, and recreation, celebrating our diversity and providing quality government services, all in a picturesque city surrounded by beautiful open spaces. It is my honor to serve this community and to work with my fellow city council members to ensure that these priorities and values continue for many generations to come.
My dream for the future is that our country could be united and not divided. I think that we should do what's best for the many instead of the individual. And I think that we should lift each other up instead of putting each other down.
My dream for the future is that every individual is aware of their value and acknowledges and respects the value of others.
My dream for the future is that all kids would be treated with fairness, not judged for their skin color or their background, but rather getting to know who they are on the inside. I wish to inspire kids to start bringing diversity events, clubs, activities to their schools. I've already started working on fulfilling my dream through the Ecoversity Club at SV. This club's purpose is to emphasize the importance of diversity within our school community. This is a small step towards making a big change in my community. Just like Martin Luther King, I intend to make the purpose of my life as meaningful as possible.
Hello, I'm Jim Ventress, and it's been my pleasure to be involved with the nonprofit community here in Santa Clarita for many years. I served as the Chief Professional Officer for the local Boys and Girls Club for 29 years. And since I retired, I continue to be involved with the club and many other community groups. This is a celebration of Dr. King and will feature community members, local youth, members of the City of Santa Clarita Human Relations Roundtable, and City Council members, sharing what Martin Luther King means to them. We will also be honoring Dr. King by remembering life through his words, photos, videos, and hopefully inspiring the next generation to learn about him and his teaching. Martin Luther King Jr. was born January 15th, 1929, to a long line of Baptist ministers. He grew up in Atlanta during a time when Jim Crow laws made segregation and discrimination a daily reality for blacks in the South. He attended Morehouse College in Atlanta and received his doctorate from Boston University School of Theology before returning to the South, where he served as pastor for the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery, Alabama. Dr. King dedicated his life to nonviolent struggle for racial equality. His approach and actions were the heart of the civil rights movement, and his calls for equality and justice have lived beyond his lifetime and served as an example for people to aspire to. He demonstrated a deep belief in human rights and never chose fear. Instead, he chose courage, determination, and fighting against oppression, ignorance, and violence. He refused to give in or give up, even when he was imprisoned and threatened with violence and death. He constantly worked towards the goal of achieving rights for everyone through nonviolence and service. He had a vision for a more diverse America where all were equal and opportunity was not based on a person's skin color, class, or heritage. Dr. King realized that violence would only help those he stood against, so he preached nonviolence. He also understood that people working together, pursuing a common goal, was the only way to make progress. Separately moving forward would be a challenge, if not impossible. Working with many other civil rights leaders, he was able to cause changes nationwide, and his leadership contributed to the overall success of the civil rights movement in the 1950s and the 60s. His teachings continue to impact civil rights movements all over the world. As the push for civil rights and equality continues, the world still faces challenges. We continue to face poverty. We continue to see educational inequality. We continue to hear calls for justice. We continue to fight against racism and bigotry. Dr. King was killed April 4th, 1968 in Memphis, Tennessee. To honor his legacy, the United States Senate passed a bill October of 1983 to create Martin Luther King Day. President Reagan signed a bill the following month, and since that time, it has been a national holiday. The holiday doesn't only serve as a way to remember Dr. King as a civil rights leader, it also serves as an opportunity to learn more about his leadership and to encourage Americans to dedicate themselves to supporting communities through service. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share just a few details about the life of this amazing man. I encourage you to find out more about Dr. King. There are many books and films about him, but you can also seek out his own writings and watch his speeches. His contribution to the life of all Americans is worth remembering and celebrating.
appreciate Dr. King because he forces us to confront the reality that racism and injustice still exist in our world today. And he challenges us to examine ourselves to see if there is any conscious bias or unconscious bias that contributes to this racism and injustice. And he calls for us to do something about it, not just to talk, but to act, to build a better world for us all.
To me, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. means change. He stood for equality and he stood for justice. And he was a forward thinker. He looked towards a future where the next generation was not judged by the color of their skin, was not judged by the neighborhood they grew up in, but they were only judged by how hard they worked and then the content of their character.
Hi, I'm Jim, and I think Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is an ideal role model for teaching us how to love our neighbor and to put the needs of others ahead of our own. Following the bombing of his home during the Montgomery bus boycott, a reporter asked the young leader a very powerful question. And I think his answer summarized his heroic nature.
No, I'm not. My attitude is that this is a great cause. It is a great issue that we are confronted with. And I have always felt that ultimately along the way of life, an individual must stand up and be counted and be willing to face the consequences, whatever they are. And if he is filled with fear, he cannot do it.
What Dr. King means to me is hope. In the face of discrimination and injustice, he believed in the brighter future. He believed that together, through kindness and service, we could build a better world. He gave his life for that belief, for that hope. That is why Dr. King and this annual holiday means so much to me. And it is my great pleasure to be part of this celebration of Dr. King's life and legacy. As Dr. King said, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenges and controversy. I thank you for joining us for the celebration of Dr. King, and I encourage you all to find ways, big or small, to give back and to help each other. Together, we can make Dr. King's vision for a brighter future a reality.
I want to be remembered for being a good father and husband, for being a person who always cared about his family, friends, co-workers, and community. I want to be remembered as a person who stood up for his beliefs and was always willing to listen to the thoughts and ideas of others and be a positive voice for our community. I want to be remembered for giving back to the town that I love and am raising my family, and for treating people with respect and understanding we all deserve from each other.
I want to be remembered for making an impact, for making a difference, that my life mattered, that the way that I treated people influenced the shape of this world, that just like Dr. Martin Luther King, that he was able to influence and move and motivate people to love and to speak against hate and injustices. I hope that I'm remembered for that.
I would like to be remembered as someone who always looked for ways to bring value to people I encounter.
Hello, and greetings everyone. This is Dr. Sharice Moore. I am delighted to have this opportunity to share a bit about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and our Santa Clarita Valley celebration of him. The Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. holiday is a day that celebrates the life and legacy of this courageous civil rights leader. The holiday is observed on the third Monday of January each year and known across the country as a day on, not a day off. Martin Luther King Jr. Day is the only federal holiday designated as a National Day of Service, encouraging all Americans to volunteer and give back and to do acts of kindness and service. This day of service empowers individuals to strengthen their communities and to move us closer to Dr. King's vision of a brighter future, as so eloquently expressed in his famous "I Have a Dream" speech. On this holiday, hundreds of thousands of Americans come together to serve their community. Citizens in all 50 states deliver meals, refurbish schools, and community centers, collect food and clothing, and commit to volunteer for nonprofit organizations. Remember, MLK Day is a day on, not a day off. Thank you.
I help others by contributing my time, knowledge, and passion to continue to make our community such a wonderful place to live, work, and play. I want to be remembered for accepting the challenge, when presented, to spend the time and energy to protect our environment for future generations, which includes my efforts that kept Ellesmere Canyon in the Angeles National Forest from becoming the world's largest garbage dump at the gateway to our city. Also remembered for my service with various local nonprofit organizations and as a dedicated councilwoman and 4-time mayor. Dr. King strongly believed in change, but he always advocated achieving that change through peaceful means.
I seek to help others by listening, by understanding, by empathizing, by seeking to bridge our gaps and our differences rather than divide, create fear, or to exploit them.
I help others in Santa Clarita by serving on nonprofit boards and by volunteering my time. I think it's really important that if you have an opportunity to give back, you do so at every chance that you can, and volunteering is a great way to do that.
I feel that I help others by documenting the historic contributions of Santa Clarita's Black civic leaders so that we can educate the community and celebrate the contributions that they have made locally, nationally, and globally.
My wife and I have tried to instill in our 3 children that kindness is about treating other people with respect, being understanding, friendly, considerate, and generous. But sometimes being kind takes courage. It definitely shows a strength of character. And most importantly, we can't forget to be kind as we become adults. We are our children's first and most persuasive role models. We teach our children to be kind by demonstrating examples of kindness ourselves.
I am going to be teaching my children that kindness is a choice. It is a conscious effort that you have to make in order to actually be kind. And while it may not always be the easiest option, it is always the best option.
I will teach my children that kindness is really important no matter what it is, who it is, and when it is.
I teach my children that true kindness is when you put others before yourself.
I will teach my children that kindness is everywhere they choose it to be. Kindness is a chain reaction where one act of love can set off millions more acts of love. All our stories lie beneath our skin, and with kindness, we can use these stories to reach out to others and inspire change. All it takes is one person to tell their story, one person to do something kind, one person to give others hope.
And every now and then I think about my own death, and I think about my own funeral, and I don't think of it in a morbid sense. Every now and then I ask myself, what is it that I would want said? And I leave the word to you this morning. If any of you are around when I have to meet my day, I don't want a long funeral. And if you get somebody to deliver the eulogy, tell them not to talk too long. And every now and then I wonder what I want them to say. Tell them not to mention that I have a Nobel Peace Prize. That isn't important. Tell them not to mention that I have 300 or 400 other awards. That's not important. Tell them not to mention where I went to school. I'd like somebody to mention that day that Martin Luther King Jr. tried to give his life serving others. I'd like for somebody to say that day that Martin Luther King Jr. tried to love somebody. I want you to say that day that I tried to be right on the war question. I I want you to be able to say that day that I did try to feed the hungry. I want you to be able to say that day that I did try in my life to clothe those who were naked. I want you to say on that day that I did try in my life to visit those who were in prison. I want you to say that I tried to love and serve humanity.